This lesson is 2.3, converting between fractions and decimals. Our learning target is to convert between different forms of rational numbers. So if you have a decimal, how do you make that into a fraction? If you have a fraction, how do you make that into a decimal? And you'll be able to go back and forth. There's two really important vocabulary terms that we need to know. One is called a terminating decimal. That is a decimal that ends. Like if you have 1.5, that's 1.5. The 0.5 ends right there. So terminating decimals are nicer to work with because it's an exact amount. Now you also have something called a repeating decimal. It's a decimal that has a pattern that repeats. So if you have like 1/3 and you take 1 divided by 3, you're going to get 0.333333333, and it goes on forever. And so what you do is you take whatever number is repeating and you put a little line over it like that. And that little bar notation, it shows that that digit repeats forever. It's a repeating decimal. So it would be negative 1.3, and 3 goes on forever. Now you might have something like 0.151515. So what you're going to do is the one that repeats is the 1.5. So you put the line over the repeating, and then that's all you need, 0.15. And it tells you that that's a repeating decimal. That's 0.15, 15, 15, and on and on and on. Oops. Let's do some writing fractions and mixed numbers as decimals. So what you have here is you have a mixed number, a negative 2 and 1/4. So we're just going to write that in a new way. We're going to keep the same value of it. It's always going to be negative 2 1/4. But instead of having it as a mixed number, let's write it as a decimal. First thing I do is I convert that to an improper. So 4 times 2 plus 1 is 9. 9 over 4, which is a negative 9/4. And then the way I think about this is when you're doing it by hand, I think about this division like this, and the numerator, or whatever is the top number, the numerator, goes in that little kind of frame there. And then on the outside, or on the side, is the denominator. So numerator inside, denominator to the side. And so what you have is you have 9 divided by 4. Okay? And then you can see how they did it. How many times does 4 go into 9? It goes in there twice. So you get 8, you bring down your 1, then you drop this 0. You have 10. How many times does 4 go into 10? 2 times. That's 8. So then you subtract that. You have 20, or you have a 2. Then you bring down your 0. Now you have 20. And 4 goes into 25 times. And that exactly zeroes out. And there's nothing more to bring down. So it's a terminating decimal, 2.25. And because it started out as negative, it continues to be negative. And that's what you have. Those are the same values, just different ways to say it. Negative 2 1/4 equals negative 2.25. Now you could have the thing I like about the terminating decimal is that it's the exact amount. It's what you have, and you know that that's your value. Now you might have a repeating decimal, and you do the same thing. You put your numerator inside and your denominator to the side. And so in this one you had 5 divided by 11. And 11 doesn't go into 5, but so then you have to add your decimal and a bunch of zeros. You can add as many zeros as you want. Put the decimal up top. So now you have 50. How many times does 11 go into 50? Goes in there 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. Subtract that, you get a 6. Bring down your 0. Now you have 60. Then 5 goes in there. When you subtract that, you get 50, or you get 5. And then you bring down your next 0, you get 50. How many times does 11 go into 50? 4 times. That's 60. And you can kind of see it will repeat on and on and on and on and on. So 5/11 is the same as 0.45 repeating. Now, whenever I have a repeating like that, if I need to do some sort of subtraction or addition or multiplication, I always use the fraction form, because I know with the fraction form I have the exact amount. 0.45, I can't, that could be off by just a smidge, depending on, because I can't write it forever. So, okay, let's practice some of these. I'm going to do some by hand, and I'm also going to show you with a calculator how I like to do this. Okay. The try-its. Give me some space here. Okay, so number 1 is a -6/5. I know that's going to be negative in the end, but if I want to do it by hand, I would go the numerator goes inside, denominator goes to the side. Oops. Denominator goes to the side. Okay. Now, how many times does 5 go into 6? It goes in 1 time. 5, 1. Now, I don't want just like 1 remainder 1 or 1 1/5. I want to get it in decimal form. So I can always do a decimal, add my 0, then I bring it down like this. How many times does 5 go into 10? 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. That's 0. I don't need to bring anything else down. So that would be -1.2. All right. Now let's do number 2, which is a -7 3/8. I'm going to change that into an improper. So 8 times 7 is 56, plus 3 is 59 over 8. And then I put my numerator inside, put my denominator to the side, and then I divide out. How many times does 8 go into 59? 7 times. That's 56. Subtract that, it gets me 3. Then I'm going to put a decimal, I'll just add a few zeros here. Don't know how many I need. Bring down my 0. How many times does 8 go into 30? 3. And that's 24. So I have a 6 left here. Then I bring down another 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? That would be 7 times. And 7 times 8 is 56. That gets me 4. I'm running out of space here. Bring down my next 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5 times, and that's 40. And thankfully, 40 minus 40 is 0. So I am done. It's a -7.375. All right. For 3 and 4, I'm going to show you how to do it with a calculator. And I'm going to try something here. I'm going to try and create a little video. Before I do my little video, I do want to do 3 and 4 because these are not terminating, they are repeating. So let's do -3/11. Okay, I put the numerator inside. So that's going to go in. And then I put my denominator to the side. Now, I know 11 can't go into 3, so I'm going to add just a bunch there. And then 11 goes into 30 2 times. 2 times 11 is 22. And I subtract that out, gets me 8. Bring down a 0. How many times does 11 go into 80? 7 times, that'd be 77. And then I bring that, there's 3. Interesting. Now I'm at 30 again. So I know that's 2. 2 times 11 is 22. Subtract that, gets me 8. I can kind of see there's a pattern starting here. And so it's going to be 0.27272727, and it'll go on forever. So my answer is a negative 0.27, and that's the repeating part. So that would be negative 3/11. This is the same as that. Okay, let's do 4. I'm going to get rid of this, and we will do 4. Negative 1 and 5 27ths. Make it into an improper. So 27 times 1 plus 5, 32 over 27. And then I put my numerator inside, my denominator to the side. How many times does 27 go into 32? It goes in there 1 time. Subtract 5. Now I'm going to add my decimals here. A bunch of zeros. Like that. How many times does 27 go into 50? Just 1 time. And then 27. So that becomes 323. So then I bring down my 0. How many times does 27 go into 230? 8 times. And 8 times 27, that is 216. When I subtract that, it gets me 2. That gets me 14. And so I'm going to bring down another 0. How many times does 27 go into 140? 5 times. 5 times 27 is 135. Subtract that out, gets me 5. Bring that down, 50. Now once I see something repeats here, I know because I had 50 right here, I'm just going to get 27, and I'm going to get the same. So then it's just going to keep going on forever. So I can kind of know that my answer is a negative 1.185 with the 185 repeating forever. All right, I'm going to try and do a little video here. I'm going to show you how to do these on a calculator. Now, you need to know how to do it long division like I just did with pencil, and put the numerator inside, denominator to the side, and how to do that. But once you know that, I'm okay with using a calculator here. So negative 6/5. So I start with the top number 6. I put that in, 6, and divided by 5. And that equals 1.2. It started out as a negative, so I know this is going to be a negative 1.2. And it doesn't go on forever. It's terminating. Okay. Now, with the next one, I could make it improper, or I could just keep it like this, and I go negative 7, and then all I have to do is type in 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8 equals 0.375. So then I know that negative 7 and 3/8 is negative 7.375. Now, if I wanted to make that into an improper, it would be 59 over 8. So now I just clear up my calculator, do 59 divided by 8 equals 7.375. And it started out negative, so it has to stay negative. Okay? Now, let's look at negative 3/11ths. So I'm going to take the 3, and I'm going to divide it by the 11. And I push equal. And you can see that there's a repeating part of it. So 0.27, 27, 27, 27, and a calculator can only go so far, so we know the 27's repeating. So that would be a negative 0.27, that repeats. Okay, now 1 and 5/27ths, I'm gonna take it into an improper. 27 times 1 plus 5 is 32, so I do 32 divided by 27, oopsie, 27 equals 1.185, the 185, and then you have another 185, and then it's just going to repeat and repeat and repeat. Okay, so that's what that is. And the way I know to put the top number in the calculator first is like, if I have 5/7, I think about this right here as divided by. So 5 divided by 7. Put the 5 in, push divide, 7, and you'll get your answer. All right, now we're going to write a terminating decimal as a fraction. So how do you write a decimal as a fraction? There's a couple different ways I think about this. One is I think about just saying it, and it helps. So like if I have 0.26, I guess on this example it's a negative 0.26, but I just say what it is. I read it. This decimal says that this is 2/10, 600, so it's 26 hundredths. So then I say negative 26 hundredths. And then I just have to simplify that. I can divide each by 2, negative 13 50s. 13 won't go into 50, and 13's prime, so that's what I get. So that's how you make a terminating decimal into a fraction. Now, the other way you could do it is, if ever you have like 7 and you want to make it into a fraction, you just put 1 under it, okay? So if I have 0.26, negative 2, and I want to make it into a fraction, I'll just put a 1 under it. But I want to get rid of this decimal. How do I get rid of the decimal? I got to times the top by 100, times 100, and then I got to do the bottom by 100. So that gets me 26 over 100, negative 26 over 100. Then I simplify it, and it gets me a negative 13 over 50. So either way works good. All right, let's do some of these try-its. I'm going to erase this. And we will do 5 through 8. Okay, that's big. Negative 0.3. So I know that that's 3/10, negative 3/10. So if I just say it, it's negative 3/10. That's not too bad. I mean, if I would put negative 0.3, put a 1 under it, I know I just times this by 10 and times this by 10. It gets me 3 over 10 negative, same thing. So, okay. Number 6, 0.125. Now the place value, this is my tenths, this is my hundredths, this is my thousandths. So I just say the number, 125 thousandths. So I go 125 over 1,000. Then I just have to simplify. And I know 25 goes into both of those. So I'm going to divide each side by 25, the top and the bottom. That gets me 5. And 1,000 divided by 25 gets me 40. Now I know that 5 can go into each of those. So I divide each side by 5, and it gets me 1/8. Now the way I could check that is I get my calculator, and I go 1 divided by 8, and that gives me 0.125, which is what I started at. Cool. Okay, now let's do number 7. -3, let me change colors. -3.1. So this can kind of stand for and. So it's -3 and 1/10. -3 and 1/10. I'm done. I could have made that into -3.1, put a 1 under it, but then I got to times each side by 10 to get rid of that decimal, and it gets me a -31/10. And how many times does 10 go into 31? 3 times, leaves me with 1, 10. So same thing. Okay, now we have 8 is a -10.25. So I know I'm going to have a -10 as my whole number. Then I just have to have 25 as my fraction. And it's 25 hundredths, so 25/100. But that 25 and 100 can be simplified. Divide each side by 25. Gets me 10 wholes and 1/4. Okay. So the way you take a decimal and make it into a fraction or a mixed number is you just kind of say it, what it is. You need to know place value, say it, and then simplify it. All right, we're going to do a little self-assessment here. I'm not going to worry about number 9. I do want to do 10 through 15. So go ahead, try these on your own. So pause the video, try them, and then come back and see how you did. Okay, so 3/16. I'm going to use my calculator on this one. I know how to do it by hand, but I'm just going to type in 3 divided by 16 equals, it's a terminating one. I can see that it ends. So it's 0.1875. That's all. Number 11. It's a -7/15, so it's going to be a negative. And then I just say 7 divided by 15 equals 0.4. And I see on my calculator the 6 goes on forever. So instead of writing all those 6s, it's the 6 that repeats. So it's -0.4. Morning.
How are you?
Okay, sorry about that. Mrs. Kosicki just came in, so I wanted to say good morning. Okay, -0.46. The 4 does not repeat, but the 6 does, so that gets the line over it. Okay, now let's do 12. 6 and 17/20. I know it's going to be 6 point, and then I just figure out what 17 divided by 20 is 0.85. The other way I could have done it is I could have made that into an improper, which would be 6 times 20, which is 120, plus 17 would be 137/20, and then 137 divided by 20 would get me 6.85. So same answer. Either way works, but using the calculator is so helpful. All right, let's draw a little line here. Now let's do 13, where we're going to take it from a decimal and put it into either a fraction or a mixed number in its simplest form. 0.6, I just say it, it's 6/10. So 6/10. I know both of those are even. I'm going to cut them in half, so it's 3/5. Okay, perfect. Number 14, -12.48. I know it's going to be -12 as a whole number because that's my whole number, and then 48 hundredths. But 48 hundredths can be simplified. And kind of the way I do it, it takes a little longer, but I always just, when they're even, I divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So that gets me 12, negative 12, and 24 50ths. But I know that they're even also. So now it's negative 12, cut those in half, 12 25ths. And there's nothing that can go into 12 and 25. So I have my final answer, negative 12 and 12 25ths. Okay, one more to do. And I need a little bit more space, so I'm going to clear out some of this. And we have 0.408. Okay. Takes a little bit of time, but 0.408. I know that this is the thousandths place, so it's 408 thousandths. And I'm going to cut that in half, so 204 over 500. Cut that in half, 102 over 250. Now I gotta see if there's anything that can go there. Well, they're both still even, so let's do one more, cut it in half. 102 divided by 2 is 51, and that's 125. And 51, nothing that goes into 51 can go into 125, so that's my final answer. So 51 over 125 is the same as 0.408. You can check it on your calculator by going 51 divided by 125, and when you do that, you get 4.408. Here's a problem solving, kind of a word problem here. The table shows the elevations of 4 sea creatures relative to sea level. Which of these sea creatures are deeper than the whale? Explain. Okay, so we know the whale is a negative 0.8. I'm going to make these all into decimals, and then I'm going to put them in line, and I can see which ones are deeper. So we have 0 here, and then we'll have a line going negative down, okay? Negative 13 over 10, I'm going to do 13 divided by 10 equals negative 1.3. Okay, so if this is, I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to wait till the end. I'm going to get them all, then I'll do a number line. Negative 2/11. 2 divided by 11 equals 181818. Okay, so that's a 0.18. That 18 repeats. It's a negative. All right, negative 2 1/5. That's 11 divided by 5. It's a negative 2.2. So now I have, here's 0. Now I'm going to go down here, and I have negative 1, negative 2, and that's all I need. So who's deeper than the whale? Well, let's put where the whale is. The whale is 0.8. So it's not quite a negative 1. 0.8. That's my whale. All right. Angelfish is negative 1.3. So the anglerfish, sorry. Anglerfish is deeper. And then the shark is 0.18. So that's just 0.18. That's It's not very deep at all. 0.18 repeating. So that one's not. So the shark is not deeper than the whale. And then we have negative 2.2, which is like right here, which is the squid. So the anglerfish and the squid would be deeper than the whale. For the self-assessment, go ahead and pause the video, try it yourself. I will do these for you, so I want you to try them, get the answers, and then come back and finish this video, and you can see how you did and see if you did it a similar way than what I did. Okay, so number 16. A box turtle hibernates in sand at an elevation of negative 1.625 feet. A spotted turtle hibernates at an elevation of negative 1 7/12 feet. Which turtle hibernates deeper in the sand? Well, I like having that as a decimal. I need to make the spotted turtle as a decimal. So I know it's going to be a negative 1 point, and then I do 7 divided by 12. That gets me 0.583333. So the 3 repeats. Okay. So when I put them on an elevation here, if I have 0 right here, negative 1, negative 2. So the turtle hibernates, or the spotted turtle hibernates at negative 1 7/12, which is the same as this. So that I'm going to put right here. I'm going to call that is my spotted turtle. Okay, and then I have a box turtle. It hibernates at negative 1.65. Well, if this is negative 1.583, then a little bit deeper would be negative 1.625. And that's my box turtle. So which one hibernates deeper? The box turtle does. This question then asks another little question: how much deeper? So I'm going to take my, because this is a repeating one, I can't use the decimal. I have to do both as a fraction. So I have to take negative 1 7/12, and I have to take the difference of negative 1 and, see if you can erase that. Oh, I can't erase that. There we go. 1 and 0.625, which is 625 over 1,000. So now let's make that into, let's simplify that as much as we can. 625 divided by 25 would be 25. That's a negative 1, 25, 1,000 divided by 25 equals 40. Divide each of those by 5. Now we get a negative 1 and 5/8. Okay. Now make it improper. So negative 12 times 1 plus 7 is 19 twelfths. And then I'm going to take that and find the difference to 8/13 over 8. But I want to have the same denominator. So it's 24. That would be 19 times 2 is 38. 13 times 3 is 39. And so the difference between 38 24ths and 39 24ths is going to get me a 1 24ths. Okay, so I just need the absolute value. The difference from one to the other is 1 24ths. And I should put my unit, 1 24th foot. All right, for number 17, I gave myself a little bit more space here. It says a red sprite is an electrical flash that occurs in Earth's upper atmosphere. And this shows the elevations of 4. What is the range of the elevation? So we got to find which is the highest, which is the lowest, and then find the difference between the highest and the lowest. So I'm going to make them all into decimals. Hopefully we don't have any repeating decimals. So I have, 50.6. And then if I take 13 divided by 25, that's going to be 50.52. Then we have 8 divided by 15. Oh, that is a repeating one. But I'm gonna have it as a repeating just for a second. Maybe it won't factor in. 50.53. 3. And that 3 repeats forever. Okay, and then we have 155 divided by 3. That gets me 51.666. That repeats forever. So I know that this is my greatest one. 155 over 3 is my highest. And my lowest would be 50.52. So 50 and 52. So 15, or 50 and 13 25ths is the lowest. So now I just have to find the difference between those two. And I'm going to make 50 and 13 25ths into a improper. So 25 divided by, or times 50 plus 13 equals 1263 over 25. And then I have 155 over 3. Now I need to get those into the same denominator. So I'm just going to go 75. Now this is going to get me some pretty big numbers, but that's okay. With a calculator, it's not bad. So 1,263 times 3 equals 3,789. And I have 3 times 25, so it'd be 155 times 25 equals 3875. Now I just have to find the difference between these two. And so I take my the larger one, 3875 minus 3789 gets me 86 over 75. Now 86 over 75, I know it goes in there one time, and it leaves me with 11 over 75. 11 does not go into 75, so that's my answer. And I'm looking at it, it's in miles, so the difference or the range between the greatest and the least is 1 and 11/75 mile. If I would make that into a decimal, I would do 11 divided by 75, and it would give me 1.146 repeating. but I don't like the repeating. This one has a definite amount, 1 and 11/75. More accurate.